So that's such a great question. So there are two Roombas. They have rubber trees mounted on top of them, and they are vacuuming a bright green carpet. And they are doing this to a karaoke soundtrack. It's a backing track, so it's just the instrumental for the song High Hopes, which is a song that was sort of, it was made famous by Frank Sinatra. And it's a song that, you know, I learned actually in like the second grade or something like that. And it's a song that's about a little ant that's trying to push a rubber tree plant. And the ant has high hopes because it thinks it could achieve this like kind of crazy thing. A little ant is going to try to move this tree. Basically, because of these algorithmic movements of the Roombas, which are just designed to clean the room, right? But with the music, it seems like they're dancing. And then also when humans are in the space, so when viewers are in the gallery, they change the contours of the room so that the room is no longer a perfect rectangle. And what Roombas do when there are things in the way, when they encounter obstacles, is they kind of try to go around them and bump into them. So they appear to be quite social. It appears as though they're interested in the humans in the room. Mm-hmm. The reaction from audience members is often like, it's kind of this charismatic seduction from the Roombas. So people like they want to dance with the Roombas. They want the Roombas to come to them. They want to pet the plants and things like that. Mm-hmm. So there is this sort of anthropomorphism that happens by virtue of this setup. And I find this really interesting because, of course, the idea with karaoke is that there's no singer, right? Like there's no human singer. Mm-hmm. So the humans are sort of in the background of this piece throughout. And what is sort of foregrounded and given attention is the Roombas and the rubber trees, which are things that are usually sort of in the background. One of the things that I think about with that is that the Roombas are performing a kind of work that is usually invisibilized. And I'm sort of putting it on center stage, right? So the work of vacuuming is a kind of maintenance work that is, you know, often, you know, if it's not done by a robot, it's done by, you know, maybe a housewife, maybe an underpaid domestic worker. It's a kind of work that is conducted behind the scenes. It's kind of like back of house. And it's the kind of thing that we prefer probably not to see. You know, on some level, I'm anthropomorphizing the Roombas and the trees. And I'm also instrumentalizing them because I'm using them to serve a human purpose, to make visible human labor that's otherwise invisible. So maybe that's not the most ethical, right? Because I'm instrumentalizing another object, right? Right. But on the other hand, I think that this performance actualizes the kind of solidarities that I think we would do well to incorporate in our everyday thinking. So, for example, we could flip it, right? We could think about how the work of the Roomba is also dehumanized, right? And I think that in some ways, and you know, that sounds like, well, of course the Roomba's work is dehumanized. The Roomba isn't a human. But we could think, when we start to think about labor in that kind of spectrum that I was talking about earlier, and when we start to think about being human in that kind of spectrum that I was talking about earlier, another scholar who I think is really pertinent here would be somebody like the Black Studies scholar Sylvia Wynter, who talks about the category of human as a category that is based on racialized exclusion. So who gets to count as human and who doesn't get to count as human, or deserving of sympathy, or deserving of empathy, or deserving of solidarity, is something that is, you know, let's say it's culturally determined. It would be a nice way of putting it, right? So I'm really interested in, and I mean it very seriously. This is sort of one of the benefits of being an artist, I think, is that I can make a statement that seems, really quite extreme and controversial, that we should extend worker solidarity or feminist solidarity to inanimate objects. That sounds quite controversial, I'm aware. But I mean it quite literally. And I think that if we do that, then we can start to treat other humans, or less than or more than humans, better.
Yeah.
We can also treat the object world better as
Yeah.
well. And, I think that this sort of, so many things that we see, or that I see, I should say, that are, you know, I think really quite tragic, result from a kind of human exceptionalism that I think we need to um, take real steps in trying to overcome. So it's hard for people to let go of human privilege and to let go of human exceptionalism. Um, and yet I think it is the only way that we, stand half a chance of, we're not going to save the planet, actually. I think it's too late to save the planet, but we might be able to care for the planet differently, and to mitigate or, somehow reduce the harmful impacts of human behavior.